can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What's up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Nightwing number 100 by Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo, Scott McDaniel, Rick Leonardi, Eddie Barnes, Javier Fernandez, and Mikel Janin. This issue has a lot going on with it, and I'll be brutally honest, if you have not been keeping up with Nightwing by Tom Taylor, there's a lot to take in, and while that is true, I can sum it up pretty simply for you. Recently, we just wrapped up the event of Dark Crisis. After that event, I did an entire video breaking down all the craziness and chicanery that happened leading up to that point. I highly recommend you go check out that video. I will try to remember to leave a card somewhere up here. You can go click on that and learn all about what was going on there. But in the aftermath of everything, what you really need to know is that Dick Grayson has now become the face of the DC Comics universe. Something that I feel that is at the very least 40 years long overdue. The trick here is that the Justice League is, well, not necessarily disbanded. The Justice League is taking a hiatus in the wake of Dark Crisis and choosing to have Dick Grayson, who was pretty much the face of Dark Crisis. He was pretty much the guy who stepped up. He filled the role that Batman would normally have at the center of just about any crisis. He led the heroes of the DC Comics universe when the Justice League was still technically dead, even though they weren't really dead, but you get the idea. Dick Grayson put together the largest roster of the Titans that had ever been seen before and was taking it to the dark multiverse army that Pariah and Deathstroke were using to try and restore the multiverse by killing each of DC's heroes to create a new Earth. Dick Grayson was instrumental in this, and not only do I think readers saw him as instrumental, but so too did the Justice League, Batman especially, maybe even more so than anyone else. Everyone is seeing that Dick is a leader. They know that Nightwing is the guy you can count on if Batman is nowhere to be found. I would even dare say in some cases, they probably see him as even more valuable. It's something that you would kind of have to go back to pre-Flashpoint, like the whole Battle for the Cowl thing, how Dick Grayson, when he took up the mantle of Batman, it was one of those situations where the Justice League could tell that it wasn't Bruce, but at the same time, he brought qualities to being Batman that Bruce never could. And I'm not just talking about from a crime fighting perspective, I'm talking about more so from a likability and personality perspective, because he was still Dick Grayson. He was Batman, but I mean, at the end of the day, he was still the character that we knew and loved. He would kind of try to, ham it up a little bit, but at the end of the day, he was still a good Batman, and he just never got the chance to do it long enough to where he could be taken seriously as he deserved. And what the Justice League want is not necessarily for him to take up the mantle of the Justice League or to lead the Justice League, but no, they want him to lead DC's next iteration of superheroes, the superheroes who are going to be the saviors of the DC Comics universe going forward when there is no Justice League left. And that is what Dick is doing. Now, it's no surprise who he's putting on the team because he's not building a new Justice League. He is bringing back the Titans. This is a huge move because it places some of DC's greatest legacy heroes front and center as DC's premier superheroes. Characters like Donna Troy and Wally West, who have long faced egregious amounts of disrespect, are finally getting their due. Characters like Starfire, who has long been a powerhouse in the DCU and is rivaled only by characters like Wonder Woman in terms of raw power, and even that is questionable. She rarely gets to be in the spotlight on this level. Cyborg, once a Teen Titan and Justice League member, already is back where he belongs on the best team he's ever been a part of, and Raven and Beast Boy have long deserved the spotlight as well, both characters being the heart and soul, and in some cases literally, of the Teen Titans as many fans know them. Even Nightwing himself, who was once the boy wonder turned defender of Bloodhaven, stepped out of Batman's shadow and made a name for himself in the DC Comics universe. He's legit the most famous member of the Batman family who isn't Batman. And better yet, he's also the guy who, of the Bat family, is the only one who has been able to stand apart from it as convincingly as he does. Tim Drake will always be my Robin, but no one has done more to set themselves apart from Batman, to step out of his shadow so convincingly as Nightwing, save for maybe Red Hood. And now this team is going to be the face of the DCU. The Justice League is not the premier superhero team now. It is going to be the Titans, led by Nightwing. And one of the things I really enjoyed seeing was, we saw the destruction of the Titans Tower in Dark Crisis, but now we see that it has been rebuilt out of the ashes of Bloodhaven Prison. During the course of this comic, we see that the character of Heartless is striking yet again at Dick Grayson. And for those who are not familiar, Heartless is a relatively new character who's been introduced to the DC Comics universe in Nightwing number 78 back in 2021. He's basically a dark mirror of Batman who has cybernetic enhancements to give him an edge against the capes of the DC universe. These cybernetic enhancements give him superhuman strength, speed, durability, and reflexes. He's a guy who grew up to wealthy parents, though Heartless, or as he is otherwise known by his real name, Shelton Lyle, his father, Charles Lyle, was not the saint that Thomas Wayne was. Where Thomas Wayne was a doctor and philanthropist, Charles Lyle was considered a ruthless insurance shark, which is how they amassed all the wealth that they had. Shelton was born a sociopath who relished in the death and demise of other people, and when he went to Haley's Circus the day that Dick Grayson's parents were killed by Tony Zuko, he relished in the death of Dick Grayson's parents, even as a child. And this has led to him having an unhealthy obsession with Dick Grayson ever since, and his butler, Gerard, also a sociopath, did for Shelton what Alfred did for Bruce Wayne. Whereas Alfred wasn't a sociopath, Alfred took Bruce under his wing to shelter him and take care of him. Gerard did the same thing, but in Gerard's case, he nurtured Shelton's sociopathic tendencies, even going as far as helping Shelton murder his parents by rigging their helicopter to have engine failure so that Shelton could inherit their wealth. Now, the reason why he is called Heartless is because he doesn't have a heart of his own. The one he was born with was damaged during the same helicopter crash that killed his parents, and the one that it was replaced with came from his dead father, Charles, but the cybernetic implants that he uses puts too great a strain on his heart, so he has to replace it regularly with those of his victims. He even has a little quotey fingers gun that has a grapnel-like attachment to it that he uses to rip out his victims' hearts. We even see him use it in this issue against a random prison guard. He's cold, calculating, psychopathic on a level few villains in the DCU can match, and worse, he's almost as sound a tactical mind as Batman. In this issue, we see Heartless unleashing all of the prisoners in Bloodhaven, and this is kind of the moment that is used to show just how good Nightwing is when his back is against the wall, showing how he is way more compassionate than Batman when it comes to the criminals that he faces off with. Whereas Batman, if Arkham Asylum had some kind of a prison break, he would probably mercilessly beat each and every prisoner who got free and put them back in their cells. But Dick is doing things differently. He's not just beating up the random prisoners, he's giving each of them a choice. The ones who are not bought in on what Heartless is selling, he's giving each of them an opportunity to walk away or help him, just as long as they don't make the problem worse. And he's able to inspire even some of the most hardened prisoners in Bloodhaven to not throw in their lot with Heartless, to not try and make Bloodhaven a worse place. This issue is all about Dick trying to break down the prison industrial complex. This is something that if you've ever kept up with my Daredevil videos, you've probably heard me talk about before. The fact that in those books, Chip Zdarsky for like the last couple of years has really been hammering it home on the ills and evils of the prison industrial complex through the lens of Daredevil, showing how Daredevil realizes that the prison industrial complex is one of the greatest injustices that has ever happened to the United States. The fact that we use prisons as a means to make money off of criminals and don't even really try to rehabilitate them, but just hold them in a stasis so that we can basically push them back out into the world, and then they repeat offend and wind up back in prison so that they can make more money. Dick Grayson is seeing the same thing here, and he doesn't want it anymore. Hence why when they unveil the newly rebuilt Titan Tower, once a staple of New Jersey and San Francisco, is now right in Dick Grayson's backyard of Bloodhaven. A newly rebuilt tower that is meant to be not just the base of the Titans, but to be a symbol of hope and change, and it seems like the rest of Bloodhaven is buying into it. To the point that Dick has not just got the help of his fellow Titans, but also of Oracle. And yes, if you have not been keeping up, Nightwing and Batgirl are actually back to dating again, or at the very least, that's what kind of seems to be going on. Over the last few issues, we saw Nightmite try to, marry Batgirl and Nightwing, and while that didn't happen, it's pretty obvious they are maintaining a relationship. And of course, he's gonna have the help of Batman in his corner, because as I stated earlier, Batman is one of the key people who is pushing for Nightwing to take this role. And there's a very heartfelt moment in this where they're both kind of going back and forth and revealing that they have both been instrumental in each other's lives. That Batman, is talking about how Dick is the one who kept him grounded, that kept him in check, and pretty much prevented him from becoming the worst version of Batman he could have ever possibly become. But at the same time, Dick knows that wasn't entirely true. While yes, maybe Bruce sees it that way, but Dick believes that Batman is the best of us all, and Batman believes that Dick Grayson is the best of us all. And there's some, like I said, it's a very heartfelt moment that I really enjoyed. Seeing Dick Grayson call Bruce Wayne dad and all this other stuff, which is technically, I don't think the first time we've ever seen that happen, but just, I don't know, it brought a tear to my eye, damn it, leave me alone. Point of the matter is, he's got a lot more family backing him up, because for those who are not familiar, we also have the character of Melinda Zuko, or as she has legally changed her name to Melinda Grayson Lynn. For those not familiar, she is Dick Grayson's half-sister, and she is also the mayor of Bloodhaven, who initially at first seemed like a bad apple who was down with the corruption of the city, but turned out that actually wasn't necessarily the case. But this was by design, because she is working with the FBI to bring people like Blockbuster down for good by pretending to be a dirty politician, aligning herself with criminals when in reality she's setting them up for the downfall. But with the downfall of Blockbuster, she is throwing in her lot with Nightwing to help change Bloodhaven for the better. She believes in what Dick Grayson is pushing, believing that hope and change can be the best possible medicine to heal the city that Nightwing has been protecting for decades. For those unfamiliar with the character of Melinda, if you're confused as to how she is the half-sister of Dick Grayson, what you need to know is that Melinda's mother, Mei Lee, was originally married to Tony Zuko, the guy who ultimately pulled the trigger that caused the deaths of Dick Grayson's parents. She had fled from Zuko back in the day to join Haley's circus, where the Flying Graysons performed, and that's how she met Dick's dad, John Grayson, and they had a fling briefly before he eventually discovered his love for Dick's mother, Mary, and well, they got married. That's how Mei Lee wound up pregnant with Melinda, who she played off as Tony's kid, and even though Zuko knew, he never copped to it, but it's ultimately why Zuko killed Dick's parents as revenge for John knocking up Mei Lee. So he has this tremendous support system around him, and he also has his buddies in the Titans who he's been friends with for 5 ever, so he has a team backing him up who knows him better than he knows himself. And this is something I'm absolutely hyped for. The Titans being the premier superhero of the DC universe is something I felt is long overdue. I'm happy for it. I think this is actually pretty freaking awesome. Don't get me wrong, I love the Justice League, but I feel like the Titans have been sitting on the bench way too long. Get them in there, let them get some minutes. Let's give DC's legacy heroes a fair chance. It's something I've always felt that it's one of the areas where Marvel is actually better than DC when it comes to specific tropes of comics. Like, yeah, both sides have legacy characters, but I feel like Marvel is more willing to give legacy heroes a chance than DC Comics has ever been, and that was actually a long-standing issue at DC Comics, and even some people, creatives who worked at DC Comics, would even sometimes hint that DC doesn't like legacy heroes, or at least the people who were in power up until maybe a couple of years ago didn't care for legacy heroes. And now we are getting a DC universe whose legacy heroes are getting an opportunity to step up to the plate after decades of sitting on the bench and just being sidekicks. We are finally seeing these characters get the respect that they deserve. And honestly, I couldn't think of more deserving legacy heroes at DC Comics. But anyways, that's everything I want to talk about regarding Nightwing number 100. If you are new to the channel, or if you are someone who has been following my channel for quite some time and you just never pull the trigger on it, hit that subscribe button. My goal is to hit 100,000 subscribers in 2023, and the only way I can do it is with the help of you, Earth's Mightiest subscribers, as well as Earth's Mightiest subscribers of the future. On your way out, make sure to do the YouTube thing, like, share, and all that other good stuff. And in the meantime, let me know what you thought about Nightwing number 100. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.